I'm really despondent about the tolerance and acceptance for political violence on the left. It's not a both sides issue. That's a canard. Mamdani himself, it's so amazing, Tim, because he was so disciplined throughout the campaign, focused on, affordability or whatever. But then right in that last week, he just couldn't help taking a hit off that grievance bong and came out with that whole Islamophobia thing.
Yeah. Several bomb threats were made in New Jersey today as the election continues over who's going to win the governor's race, who's going to win the mayor race in New York. Plus, we have Virginia, Pennsylvania. It's getting pretty interesting. But Mamdani is blaming Trump for the threats and the intimidation, despite the fact that we have videos showing leftists assaulting ICE agents once again, ramming vehicles, kicking these feds when they attempt to arrest these people. In one video the other day, we saw somebody run up to a DHS vehicle and pop the door open to help an illegal alien escape custody. What's happening in this country is getting pretty crazy. And if Zohran Mamdani wins in New York, around 1 million people are expected to flee the city. I wonder if that'll actually happen. Well, we're going to bring in Batya Ungar-Sargon to discuss these issues. Let's see if we've got looks like everything is working well. Let's kick it up. And here we go. Batya, how's it going? Can you hear me? Apparently she can't. Batya, can you hear me? Nope. I believe she may have her system muted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi,
Tim.
okay. There you go.
How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. I'm always so happy to see you.
Absolutely. So I've got some questions about what's going on in general politics across this country, but New York's the big story right now. Not just New York, but New Jersey. We saw these bomb threats. Mamdani is blaming Trump, saying it's this intimidation, and they're trying to stop Democrats from winning. The first is the easy question, and it's a question that won't last much longer than today, but do you think Mamdani's going to win?
He's probably going to win. Despite, Cuomo got much closer towards the end. There was a huge mobilization effort in the Jewish community, in the Orthodox community, to get people to show up. Really, thousands of people turned out who don't ordinarily vote. But I just don't know that it's enough. What Mamdani did, and this is a bitter pill to swallow, but we have to be honest. If we want to prevent something like this in the future, he ran a very good campaign. And it is extremely important to understand how he did it, because it's not rocket science. He identified 3 constituencies and brilliantly crafted messaging that would sort of find the overlap between them. So his constituencies were Muslims, South Asians, and then these 20 to 30 something overeducated, over-credentialed, downwardly mobile hipsters in Bushwick and Brooklyn who think they're the working class because they failed to get amazing jobs and have student loan from getting, degree upon degree upon degree. They have enormous contempt for labor. And as a result, they want things from the government, despite him being the most privileged people on planet Earth. And Mamdani is their avatar. This is a guy who's a total Nepo baby, never worked a day in his life, lives off his parents, but makes it seem cool, right? It's cool to live off your parents, be a total failure if you can make great content for social. Okay, so that's how he got those people. He got Muslims by making ads in Arabic, by being one of them, by very clearly catering to them and pandering to them, and using Israel in this really interesting way that could activate both the 20 to 30 something over-credentialed people who are all anti-Zionists and the Muslims and the South Asians who are really against Israel and pro-Palestinian. And so he did this kind of interweaving of messaging, despite the fact that he doesn't believe anything. He's not a real politician. It's politics as lifestyle brand. And it's just really, I think, important that we acknowledge how smart this was so that we can defeat it next time around instead of sitting here like being butthurt about it, you know?
I got to give it to him. What I will say is, I think you've nailed it, especially with these overeducated young people. The issue that we're dealing with, though, is these overeducated young people are actually really, really stupid. Zoran Mamdani is offering things that make literally no
Totally.
sense. I'm going to make the buses free and go faster. And not a single person asks, what does that mean? If the buses could be free, they'd be free. So, like, you pay for them because there are workers, there's maintenance, there's storage, there's fuel, there's energy that got to use for these buses. The money sustains that. So here's my pitch. I know how we beat Mamdanis in the future. I mean, more people like him. My proposal is, I will run for office, and I'm not just going to make the buses free. That's offensive. When you board my bus, a machine will spit out a $5 bill just for you. And faster? You're going to make them go faster? No. I'm going to make them fly. I don't need to explain how it's possible as long as enough retards vote for me because they want free stuff. So you've got a guy who literally is offering up things that make no sense. And it's funny because when I talk to my friends and my family, you know, my wife is like, has Mamdani explained how you pay for these things? No, of course not, because you can't. A really great example of where we're going is AOC. When Amazon wanted to bring jobs to New York, they offered a tax break over 10 years. They said, you will save $3 billion in taxes spent. AOC then claimed that was a grant of $3 billion cash for them to spend because she doesn't understand math. I don't know how you're not going to educate these young people. They're stupid. They've not held jobs in a management position. They think communism works because they've never actually run a business. They've never actually organized anything. This is why people like Mamdani win. And you know what the worst part is? We're going to operate on the assumption right now Mamdani won. Although to be honest, I wagered for Cuomo. But what's going to happen is
Good for you.
when Mamdani ultimately fails in these policies, the response from them is going to be an excuse. It's because Trump obstructed us. It's because the capitalists interfered. It's exactly what they said about Venezuela.
The thing that makes this so funny is that the subway and the buses pretty much are already free because they don't enforce fare evasion. So I, like a good, every time I get on the subway 3-4 times a week, I feel like a complete idiot because I'm paying and there's 15 kids just jumping the turnstile. So they're already free. That's A.
Yep.
B is, why the buses and not the subway, right? It makes no sense. Like, really very few people take the bus in New York. And it's because those 20 to 30 somethings don't take the bus, right? This is what I'm trying to explain to you. Like, they don't actually want him to do any of this stuff. They would never dream of shopping in an Aldi. Forget about a free supermarket. These are people who spend $12 on a cold brew. Okay, Tim, it's all one big virtue signal. They feel like the government should pay them to make their shitty podcasts. And this is just a protest vote for them because he embodies everything that made them feel like failures. And it's so amazing to see like how in it they are. Like, there's no distance between them and any of this stuff. Like, of course you can be a socialist if your parents are funding your life, which is, I think, what's going on for a lot of these people, including Mamdani himself.
I think, it was actually fairly terrifying to wake up and see all the bomb threats in New Jersey, 7 locations. And young people are increasingly embracing violence.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, Mamdani then blamed Trump for the bomb threats. I don't care either way. The bomb threats are a bad thing, and we were actually just talking about this I've been talking about this actually for several weeks now, that we're going to get to the point with our elections where you have bomb threats or actual terror attacks, and that will be used to discredit the results. Now, because of this, if Chitterelli wins in New Jersey, you know that these Democrats are going to say it's because of the bomb threats disenfranchising voters. Mm-hmm. We're seeing this escalation of violent rhetoric, threats of violence, and this past year, just overt terror attacks across the country, especially considering the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I'm curious what you think happens in in these places or in this country moving forward with our elections, considering?
I'm really despondent about the tolerance and acceptance for political violence on the left. It's not a both sides issue. That's a canard. Mamdani himself, it's so amazing, Tim, because he was so disciplined throughout the campaign, focused on, affordability or whatever. But then right in that last week, he just couldn't help taking a hit off that grievance bong and came out with that whole Islamophobia thing,
Yeah.
which Islamophobia to me is it's sort of like oppression envy. You know what I mean? Like they have this envy of like people who are actually the subject of violence, hate crimes, violent crime, and I think there's a lot of that on the left. They use rhetoric to turn themselves preemptively into the victims of the very violence that they themselves are justifying
Yeah.
and meting out on the right. And again, this comes right out of the university. That kind of reversal of victim and perpetrator is just classic postmodernist, post-structuralist crap that was imported here by the French in the 60s and 70s and was like safely ensconced in the hallowed hallways of academia until it became totally mainstreamed, because in this country, the Democrats built an economy that you really needed to have a college degree in order to achieve the American dream. And so suddenly having access and having spent years of your life swimming in this mind virus crap was the only avenue to getting any kind of, financial security. And so it was totally mainstreamed.
I think it's going to be interesting to see where how this transforms. Right, we're looking at an estimated, whether the reporting is true or not, but they estimate 1 million people will flee New York City if Mamdani wins. And I'm hearing people say things like, "Let him win," because then they're going to learn what socialism is really like. And my response immediately, we were talking about this the other day with Ian on IRL. Chicago did that with Brandon Johnson, and they've not learned their lesson. Nothing's changing. Mamdani will win. They'll just blame. They'll keep saying, we need more communism, more communism. It's the only answer. And I think what it really comes down to at the granular level is an individual says to themselves, maybe communism doesn't work, but if I vote for him again, he's promising me free stuff. So I'll take what I can get, and then I can always flee and let the system burn down. It feels like it's an inevitability that's going to keep getting worse, and there's nothing we can do to stop the expansion of young people just saying, screw it, everyone should pay for me, and I don't care if it works or not.
Okay, so the reason I feel a lot more hopeful about it is none of his proposals can he actually put into effect. Kathy Hochul, I believe, has already said she's not going to raise taxes on the rich. He can't make his own supermarkets, and he can't make buses free. The only thing he can
He's lying to
impact
people.
The only thing he can impact is public safety. He can fire Jessica Tisch, who's the police commissioner, who's excellent, who has actually crime in New York is actually quite low. It's funny. You see a lot of these male influencers talking about how dangerous the streets of New York are. And I'm like, dude, grow up hair. It's really not that bad. There was a while where it was really bad. It was really sketchy during COVID. But actually, Eric Adams, kind of sad. He never got credit for this, but he did make the subways safer. It used to be I would encounter a crazy person every week, and now it's really once every 4 months or so. So it really is much safer. It's nothing like Chicago. And by the way, in Chicago as well, crime is so racially segregated. If you're a young man who's Black who lives in Chicago, your life expectancy is lower than that of the Congo. But if you're a white person, it's actually normal. I mean, this is true of crime across America. It's very racially segregated. It's a lot, and obviously liberals won't talk about it. They've made it a taboo to actually admit this, because the majority of violent crime is done by Blacks. They erase the fact that it is done to Blacks, literally just making it impossible to protect the most vulnerable. But anyway, because of that, I think rich people don't really actually suffer from the stupid, horrible, vile policy that they enact. It's always the poor who can't afford to actually move.
Yeah, defunding the police. Who's it going to
Exactly.
affect?
So he promised he was going to defund the police before. Throughout the campaign, he said he's learned his lesson. He promised to keep Jessica Tisch. If he keeps that promise, everything will be okay. He hates the Jews. It's fine. I really don't care what he thinks about that. It's fine. As long as he protect my synagogue, as long as he doesn't tell the cop that has to stand there on Shabbos to protect us from being shot up. Like, so as long as that to me is the only thing that really, really matters. And he's promised to keep her. If he breaks that campaign promise, just one more thing very briefly. Mamdani is very popular, 40% in New York. He never cracked 50%, and he's very unpopular nationally. So there's a very high chance that the Democrats will learn the exact wrong lesson from this, and it'll hurt them.
I think Cuomo could actually win. So I was looking at, there's an interesting post from Kalshi where they said externally, like nationwide, the people trading on the New York race give Mamdani 90% chance to win, and 11% to Cuomo, which is weird. It's greater than 100%, whatever that means. However, inside of New York, Cuomo has a 9% edge on Mamdani. So he's at 49 to 40. The people who live in New York who are betting on this race are betting Cuomo is going to win. And just recently, data came out suggesting major whales are dropping tens of thousands of dollars this morning on Cuomo to win. I actually think the perception of Mamdani may be influenced by the national level political machine, claiming that he's this very popular character when he might not actually be. So the other day I saw this and I said, okay, it's a value bet. I put $400 down on Cuomo to win. And if he does, I get paid out $5,217 or something.
How cool.
Now I do believe that Mamdani has the edge to win, but the odds don't make sense. Cuomo has a much better chance of winning than 10%. That's a weird number to give, but I guess people are so convinced. But when you, again, look at the data inside New York, Cuomo's actually leading. So I wonder, they do this strategy, the Democrats, the progressives, where they go for the primary because they know most people don't vote in the primary, and they can easily convince Democrat activists to vote for their Democrat activist candidate. But when it comes to the actual city itself, do they want someone as radical as Mamdani making these pie-in-the-sky promises he can't ever fulfill? I think Cuomo's got a chance to win. I think he's being underestimated.
I love that you're saying that. I've been saying that for the last 2 weeks, especially since I've been seeing the early voting, and that's been very much weighted in Cuomo's favor. I'll just say two things. The first, which supports what you're saying, I have 4 screens up in my office. Every person of color who has been interviewed in New York over the last week is voting for Cuomo.
Wow.
And every white kid or white person is voting for Mamdani. So it's really going to come down to voter turnout. I do have to say, Tim, I am enraged at Andrew Cuomo for running the worst campaign I've ever seen, for never once giving a single person a reason to vote for him except to stop the other guy. Like, how pathetic is that? Like, how cucked is that? Like, you literally have nothing to offer us except our fear of that guy. It's so lame. He never reached out to Republicans. It was all just so entitled. And so I think a lot of people are going to be standing there and looking at Sliwa's name and looking at Cuomo's name. Like, objectively, if it was between the two of them, Sliwa deserves it so much more. It's just that Sliwa can't win because New Yorkers are all Democrats. So the whole thing is so fascinating. I've never been in a situation like this. One other quick thing. I have to say, I didn't quite realize, something that really hit me today was we're never going to get to vote for Donald Trump again. Like, that feeling you had going in and being like, this person is going to break everything that sucks and spit at every person who had contempt for me and rewrite the whole story to make, life better for working class Americans. And then to see him do it for the last year, the euphoria I got from that and continue to get from that. I was like, Batya, you're not getting that again. That's not what it's supposed to feel like every time. It's never going to feel like that again, probably. Just slow your roll here.
So I made this point on Twitter a while ago, half jokingly. I said, Israel is the new left-right divide. And I don't think people understood the point I was making. It's a generality, but there are moderate Democrats very pro-Israel, moderate Republicans very pro-Israel, and then the emergent left and the emergent right are both very anti-Israel. And I'm half joking saying, I see a possibility in the future where moderate Republicans and liberals actually come together, and then it kind of rotates to a new left and right where Israel becomes this central focus, because you've got young right-leaning individuals, I don't even know if right-leaning is the right word, that just hate Israel. The left, of course, just hates Israel. And I feel like that could be a potentiality in the future. But the question I want to ask you is, what did Zoran Mamdani mean when he said the boots of the NYPD are laced by the IDF?
What I wanted to know is when he apologized to the NYPD, did that include the people lacing their boots, right? I mean, it was like this blanket apology.
What does this mean? What?
There's this meme on the left that because the IDF has developed certain methods of, control I don't remember exactly what it was. So they used to do these. No, actually, it was this. It was anti-terrorism training. The IDF is very good at identifying suspicious objects, obviously, because people are always trying to blow up Israelis. And so they would do specifically like identification of. I can't remember when this was, like 10 years ago. They would have NYPD counterterrorism units train with them. And this, of course, was blown out of proportion by the left into the IDF is importing all of its anti-Palestinianism and whatever. And the NYPD now, because the NYPD obviously hates people of color, like, therefore they got this from Israel. I mean, it's like the typical elevation of Israel to this level of like, Israel is the source of all your problems. The Jews are the source of all your problems. I want to say something about what you said about the left, right. I think like the real thing is it's going to continue to be immigration, which means it's the divide. Like it's just going to, which is about the class divide. Like if you're working class, you can love immigrants. They're coming for your job. They're bringing down the wages in your industry. Like it's just a fact. It's like pure economics. And if you are an elite or a person with a college degree working in the knowledge industry, immigrants are labor. They're cheap labor. Like that, I think, is going to continue to be the dividing line. You know, it's interesting. Only 13% of Democrats overall, not young Democrats, but Democrats overall now support Israel, but still 71% of Republicans. And Charlie Kirk at the last Student Action Summit did a poll. So this is like young conservatives. 75% of them still called themselves pro-Israel. They're against funding Israel. And honestly, I'm probably against that too. I think it really reduces Israel's sovereignty and ours. But they still would call themselves pro-Israel. And so I think like the war in Gaza was very unpopular. But we're really I don't see to me, like what you're seeing now, like we could talk about this or not, but like the reaction on the right from the Christian right, including people of all ages, to Nick Fuentes to be like, he's not in, like that's something you would never see on the left. So when big influencers on the left say anti-Semitic things or platform anti-Semites, they close ranks around the anti-Semitic element. But right now, what you're seeing against Fuentes and even against Tucker and against Heritage is the right, the mainstream of the right saying, actually, there's no room here for Holocaust denial. So, and that seems to me to be really widespread. And I don't think that's necessarily about Israel, but obviously it's like sort of tangentially related.
Well, Tucker Carlson used to be like the top voice in this movement or whatever. And now he's interviewing Nick Fuentes. He is attacking Christian Zionists. He seems to have very much shifted. Candace Owens, of course, has now very much runs this rhetoric. And whether or not it's Nick Fuentes or not, it does feel like there's a divide on the right. What I will say is I don't completely agree. Here's what I predict. I predicted that on the right, you have anti-interventionists as a dominant faction. Mm-hmm. So they don't like funding foreign countries. It could be Ukraine. It could be Afghanistan. It could be Israel. Right. We shouldn't be funding it. On the left, they just hate Israel. It's like a core part of their identity. And to be honest, I think it's not just Israel. It's the Jews. You had, like with the Women's March, that story from Tablet Magazine where they were accusing Jews of all sorts of weird conspiracies. The right certainly has their anti-Semitic faction. It's much smaller. But the anti-Israel sentiment, largely, like I think the right has anti-intervention. So in 10 years, when young right-wing individuals are in office and in power, they're not going to want to fund Israel. The left certainly doesn't want to, and Israel's likely going to get cut off. But what I will say to your point about...
I agree with all of that, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, that's not... I don't think that's anti-Semitic at all. I do think that Fuentes is like on a completely different level.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a segregationist. Like this is the kind of like, I feel like, the book, The Lorax, like the kids book, like I speak for the trees. Like I speak to you as a swing voter who loves Trump and really found like a home in the MAGA movement. Like swing voters don't vote for a party that can't say like Holocaust denial, segregationism, blacks are inferior. I can't F with
But
that, you know?
I feel like you do it right. I mean, the way you're even approaching it right now is more upbeat, more critical. The problem that I've seen consistently over the past several months is that the response to Tucker and Heritage has been a massive detriment to the mainstream conservative and has massively emboldened Tucker Carlson. So I'm a fan of Tucker. I don't know if I don't watch him consistently. I'm not. He's allowed to have his opinions. And what I see are holding up signs saying Tucker is not MAGA.
Yeah, no, that's pathetic. That's
It's
pathetic.
cringe.
I will just say, like, okay, I just want to give a quick analogy, okay? I was against us funding the war in Ukraine, okay? I I I don't think Putin's a good guy. I think Russia could be a very good ally for the United States. I don't see that this is something working class Americans, young people who will never be able to afford a home should be asked to pay for, okay? That's my position. It's extremely unpopular, as you may imagine, in the mainstream media. I'm a mainstream pundit. I go on TV a lot. People really hate when you say this. Some of the people who really hate it are Ukrainians who will send you extremely horrible things about you and your family in your DMs. Some of the people who hate it are mainstream massive figures with millions of followers who have attacked me relentlessly. None of that attack has pushed me to embrace Vladimir Putin as a hero and shit on Ukrainians and Ukraine and their noble, noble effort to protect their sovereignty, okay? Because I don't answer to the algorithm. I answer
Right.
to my God, and I have to face myself in the mirror. So I understand I have an unpopular view on this. It is the Ukraine lobby's job to call me a fascist. It is their job not to send me death threats. I really wish they wouldn't do that to my private home. But like, it is their job to try to silence me in any way they can. Mainstream pundits, I think, should have a little more dignity, but I understand that people feel very strongly about that. My view is not going to be shaped in opposition to the worst element on the other side because I answer to my God. And I think that there's so much on the right that is following the clicks and following the algorithm and allowing the worst element on the other side to determine. Not you, Tim. You are always above this. And I just do not know how you do that because you're a content creator, but you are never like enthralled or enslaved to your audience. You tell them what you think. And I just so admire that about you.
Scruples, I guess. Remember all those conservatives who got caught taking money to promote sugary drinks for welfare from SNAP or promoting India in this trade dispute with Trump because they got paid to do it? That is completely disgusting to me. I see mostly on the left, my view of the left, the liberal faction, they want money. And it's a means to an end. We invited Don Lemon on the show, and he responded with, or his people responded with $50,000. 50.
Stop.
Yeah. Ooh. So when we invite liberals all the time, even Bill Maher was pointing this out, they won't do it.
I know.
And
I have the same thing on my show. They won't come on my show.
Or they'll just say, I want an exorbitant amount of money. We invited Naima Trout to a Culture War live show, and she first responds with her people, not her personally, $500. And so, I think they asked how much we could pay, and we said we don't normally pay for people to come on shows, but the Culture War is a live stage event, so we'll cover travel accommodation and $500 for you to attend. They agreed, then came back later saying, you know what, actually we want $5,000. And I was like, absolutely not. In fact, I told my team, go offer the $5,000 to some other random leftist instead, just because, like, they also turned it down, by the way. So I was like, hey, I respect them for turning down the $5,000 in that regard. It was someone else. I was like, you asked for it, you don't get it, we'll throw it to somebody else. But that's what the left does. The right does have these people, but I do think, I described this phenomenon earlier in the year, how to mind break somebody. And I believe the right is wholly susceptible to it, but the left is guaranteed to be susceptible to it. What you'll do is, we've actually seen this happen. There's a fitness influencer. I'm not going to say who they are. And most of their content was fitness. Then October 7th happened. And they made a video about, it was a video where they're like, a lot of people have been saying they wanted to get my take on this one. I'm just a fitness guy, but I understand it's really devastating and bad what happened October 7th, et cetera, et cetera. That video gets 5 times as many views as the normal videos they make. Right. So then they make another video about fitness. They get a bunch of comments saying, what do you think about what's going on right now with Israel? And so they think, okay, I'll answer this. They respond. Here's what I think. Uh-oh, they were pro-Israel. To a little bit. They said, it's really sad. I think Israel this, Israel that. The comments all say, I appreciate you speaking up, but I think you're wrong about this. What's happening is psychological operations, bot campaigns, and general like farms in Pakistan or Malaysia or Indonesia spam the comments very nicely suggesting you may be wrong about this. Look at our source. The content creator who once made videos about doing fitness, within a month or two of this, their entire personality is now dedicated to Israel, and they hate Israel because they're making 10 times as much money off the views and the ads. And they respond with, but this is what the people wanted.
Right.
Mind breaking through this kind of manipulation is extremely common, has been around forever, and I think is particularly pronounced. And that's how I think you end up with people who 2 years ago were Israel ambivalent or even fitness influencers, and now they are prominent anti-Israel personalities. I think they were attacked by a psyop. I think you're allowed to criticize Israel. I think you're allowed to hate Israel. I think you're allowed to dedicate everything of your being to criticizing and focusing on the war and all of those things. But it doesn't make sense when, I had a debate with someone and I said, did you know that Ukraine has received more in 2 years than Israel has in 70 from the United States? Did you know that the president of Ukraine personally flew to our Congress and they waved his flags? So when they make these arguments about Israel's influence, I say, by all means, they have influence they shouldn't have, but so does Ukraine. So does Sudan, for that matter. The weird thing that I see is when, like, by all means, again, criticize Israel or whatever you think you're allowed to, but it's strange when you notice someone who's like a chef on YouTube now only talks about Israel.
Totally. And you see it on both sides, honestly.
Yep. I think because the left is more likely to be grifters, they're very easily susceptible to this. Mm-hmm. And I think the right has their grifters, so they adopt some of this as well. But I suppose we'll see where we go. Mamdani certainly has weaponized it. But Batya, are there any final thoughts you want to say before we wrap up?
I'm just so grateful for you, Tim. Like, when I agree with you, when I don't agree with you, I love what you're doing. I think you're such a force for good and a patriot. And yeah, I just love you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. It's always great to have you. I appreciate it. Where can people find you?
I have a new show on News Nation. It's called Batya ! It airs. I'm not going to tell you where it airs because you have a very young audience, but they post the whole show to YouTube, so you can find it there on Sundays. And it's a weekly show. We're having a good time.
Well, right on. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tim. God bless.
Take care. Always great to have Batya on. It's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of people. I will push back a little bit more on the. She says the mainstream right's pushing back against Tucker and Nick and all of that. I think it's bifurcated. I certainly do think that there is an establishment conservative base that is very pro-Israel, but their pushback of Tucker and Nick and Candace and others has been miserable. When DeSantis was running, the pro-DeSantis people were the smarmiest. It was the most smug, I just couldn't take it. I throw up in my mouth from these people. Spamming you and just attacking you. Shut up. Dude, the last thing that's going to make me change my opinion is being attacked by a mob of people. I'm the opposite. I'll just be contrarian for the sake of it, tell you to go screw yourself. So when you got people like Tucker who comes out, interviews Nick, he's allowed to do it. You can't tell Tucker what he's allowed to think. He's followers because of the things he said and the people who agree with him, and he's allowed to. You want to debate him? Sit down and have a calm, kindly debate. Ted Cruz is a senator calling for war. I agree with Tucker's criticism of him. Nick Fuentes is a guy on the internet. Tucker could have pushed back in certain areas. I think when we have Nick on, here's the challenge. We've invited Nick onto the culture war. He don't want to do it. The culture war is the actual debate where we free-form debate. No, he wants to come on Timcast IRL where we will only just go over news of the day, which means less likely for there to be any kind of debate. But hey, he's going to do what he wants, and I'll criticize him when I think he needs to be criticized. I think he's I think he's very vitriolic, and I think he's wrong, especially about Hitler and World War II, and people want to see that debate. However, he's allowed to have his opinions. Tucker's allowed to interview him, and this reaction to Tucker, I think, has been pathetic. It's been absolutely pathetic. I say to Tucker, you're a guy with a lot of followers and you're allowed to believe what you want. And people who say that Tucker shouldn't be speaking at turning point or that the right shouldn't embrace him or whatever, I'm just like, dude, your response isn't an argument. It's not an argument, okay? I'm going to platform leftists and communists, and they can come on my show and we'll debate, and it is what it is. And people seem to have no problem with that because I argue with them. I'll argue with Tucker. I argued with Joe Rogan. I'll argue with anybody. We had Mark Grimes on as a Canadian. I argue with him. And then some people get mad and they're like, Tim, be more demure and don't insult people. I shouldn't say, this is probably obvious. Anna Paulina Luna doesn't like me because I called her out because she wanted remote voting for Congress because she had a kid. My response is no, you pick one. You don't get to open up Congress to remote work because you had a child. And, I guess now she's like, well, I don't want to go on Tim Pool's show. So be it. I'm not going to pretend to agree with Congress getting to vote remotely so I can try and get access to these politicians and personalities. And the sad reality is much of journalism is called access journalism, where people refuse to criticize stupid things from prominent people because they're worried they won't get access. I'll say what I think needs to be said. And if that means people don't want to come on my show or I won't go on theirs, well, whatever. Maybe one day that will bite me in the ass. I'll fizzle out and I'll go live in a van down by the river. It is what it is. My friends, smash the like button. Share the show. We've got Dvory Darkins. He is live now. And we're going to send you on your way to go hang out with him. So follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We got more coming up for you throughout the day. Timcast IRL at 8 p.m. Do not miss it. You will enjoy it. It's going to be fun. Let's see what we got tonight. We've got Logan Hall joining us tonight on Timcast IRL. Shout out to Steven Crowder in the Mug Club for rating our show and for all of your viewers joining in and hanging out. Really do appreciate it. Again, follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, and we'll see you all tonight at 8 p.m.